Hi everyone, Gerry Dulac along with Ray Fittipaldo. We are at Mercedes-Benz Stadium where the Steelers beat the Atlanta Falcons 18-10. Our report is brought to you by Savinas, Kane & Gallucci, mesothelioma and asbestos lawyers with over 85 years experience. Call them for a free consultation. Ray, some things never change. The offense can't score points. Chris Boswell can kick field goals, and TJ Watt can certainly lead the defense. And the Steelers find ways to win ugly games, and that's what they did. But you know, it was a season opener. They got by the Atlanta Falcons. It wasn't pretty, but they're 1-0. But it looked like a lot of like we watched last year.
It did, and you had the feeling, Gerry, with the injury to Russell Wilson, the young guys starting on the offensive line, that the offense might struggle a little bit, and they did. But I will point out, no turnovers for Justin Fields. Kirk Cousins and the Falcons had 3. To me, that's the turning point in the game right there. The Steelers were smart, if conservative, but they didn't turn the ball over, and that's why they won the football game.
Yeah, they bring in new quarterbacks. They got a new coordinator. They bring in new wide receivers. They bring in new offensive linemen, and yet they fail to score a touchdown. Chris Boswell kicked 6 field goals, 3 of over 50 yards. First Steeler kicker to ever do that in their history. But you look at on the defensive side, I mentioned TJ Watt, but Deshaun Elliott coming up with the pick, Dante Johnson coming up with the pick that effectively sealed the game, and Justin Fields, after a slow, shaky start, did not turn the ball over, and you can see he protected it a lot in the late in the fourth quarter especially, and that was a difference. They got the key turnovers. They lost a couple turnovers and a couple sacks by penalties, but it's amazing how TJ Watt in those opportune moments just picks up his game. You talk about knocking off the rust. He said that after the game. You know, he hadn't played the entire preseason, and once he got into the flow, look out, I almost took over the game.
I thought he dominated the game, but you look at the stat sheet, Gerry. 4 tackles, only 1 sack. He did have 2 strip sacks,
2 taken
negated
away,
by penalties. 1 by a mistake by the official. He was not offsides. He was onside on that play, and then an illegal hand faced the penalty by Dante Jackson that nullified another. So, I mean, he looked like TJ Watt to me, and he looks like he's right back on track for NFL Defensive Player of the Year.
It was a big game for Arthur Smith, too, the new offensive coordinator coming back to Atlanta, Ray, where he coached the previous 3 seasons. We don't get a chance to talk to him after the game, but even Justin Fields was saying he knows darn well that was a big moment for him, as fiery as he can be to come here and win. And usually in these situations, it's the players who do it for their coach. Knowing Arthur Smith, I don't think he's the type that's going to come in and pound the drum that we need to beat this former team. But they responded for him, and it was, they were able to do the job.
Yeah, I thought in the first half, Gerry, maybe a little bit too much sideways with the running, the reverses, and the sideways passing. I thought in the second half, you really got a feel for the game. They were wearing down that Falcons defense. I thought the running game got going a little bit more. Najee Harris was really good in the second half. And Justin Fields, whether it was by design runs or scrambles, he was also very effective in the running game.
You mentioned Justin Fields coming back to Atlanta, his hometown. He said he had a lot of family and friends here, former teammates, and he gets off to a shaky start. Another botched center exchange. We saw that throughout the preseason. He even kind of bobbled an exchange on that toss play to Najee Harris. Had a bad misthrow to Van Jefferson, threw behind Najee Harris right off the bat, and that was all in the first 2 possessions. But he settled in, and he didn't turn the ball over. I think he was 11 of 13 in the first half for like 80 yards. But that big completion at the end of the first half, after the Falcons took the lead with that touchdown, 10-6. Steelers got the ball with 32 seconds, and he hits that deep pass to George Pickens, who actually ran a good route right here. That was a big moment for him, and that was a big moment for the team because they come back and get the field goal late. It's 10-9, and then it turned around in the second half.
Yeah, the Steelers had a long pass play by George Pickens, negated by an offensive pass interference penalty
on Pickens.
Yeah, and then the Falcons go down and score, and it's like, okay, where's the momentum going here? And then by halftime, the Steelers had it back. That was a big play by Justin Fields, and that was exactly what they needed at that juncture of the football game.
Yeah, you look at his passing yards and even George Pickens' receiving yards, they all came on basically 2 plays because in the third quarter, maybe it was the early fourth quarter, he hits that pass down the middle here to George Pickens, who makes a nice sliding catch, and that set up a field goal too. So this is what we've come to expect from George Pickens. Whether he has 2 catches or 8 catches, they seem to be these big play moments, and that's the type of receiver he was, and that's what turned the tide, at least for the offense, those 2 plays in particular.
And I'm sure they had him bracketed for a lot of the game, but those were 2 instances where he was singled up and covered. So good job by Justin Fields to recognize that, and a good job by Arthur Smith to get him the ball in those situations.
Steelers had problems in the first half. You know, the Falcons were running a lot of that zone blocking scheme to the left, and they were able to move the ball a lot. But the Steelers in the second half held the Falcons to only 51 yards. Mike Tomlin said after the game they didn't want to blitz Kirk Cousins because he's in his history as he's shown great success against 5-man pressure, so they didn't want to bring 5-man pressure, which they typically don't. He said they wanted to try and get pressure with 4 guys, and they did that in the second half. Only a couple sacks, but Larry Ogunjobi got the pressure and the hit on the play in which Dante Jackson had the interception.
Yeah, both those interceptions. I thought Kirk Cousins had plenty of time. He just made bad decisions and bad throws, and that's kind of been that guy's history, right? Successful during the regular season, but in big moments doesn't get it done. And I thought today, really a couple of bad decisions on his part to help the Steelers win this football game.
Yeah, and somewhat in his defense, Ray, and I'm certainly not a big fan of Kirk Cousins. He hadn't played in over a year, and it showed a lot too, some of his rust. But like all the other teams, the Falcons paid him a lot of big money to come here and try and turn things around. Well, that's going to do it from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Steelers 18-10 winners over the Falcons. Week 2 in Denver. We'll see if Russell Wilson comes back for that game. I think he will. For Ray Fittipaldo, I'm Gerry Dulac. You're watching Post-Gazette.com.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.